and welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and watching. We're going to be getting after it now, so expect videos to come regularly. My name is Brian Hoff. I'm joined by my best friend and next-door neighbor, Stephen Dodd. And today we are going to talk about several movies, but we wanted to start off with the winner of Best Pictures in the 2025 Oscars, Anora. Stephen, you were telling me that you were checking it out this week. Do you have any initial thoughts on Anora? What'd you think?
Well, yeah, so I am checking it out. No spoilers. Here is what I would say off the jump. I don't mind it as the winner for Best Picture. My reasoning for that in general is it's a unique film, and it almost could have passed as super indie had some of the locations and scenes, just scenery of the film had been less expensive, but it very much felt like an observational indie that was kind of a vision that I thought was Oscar worthy, because it really wasn't a big box office. I guess I'm not doing the best job, but I guess what I would say is I really liked its uniqueness. I thought it was an interesting story. I thought it stood on its own feet artistically, and in general, yeah, I support that win.
So what was the plot of Anora?
Well, in general, it's about a stripper who meets a client who is extremely wealthy, and things kind of take hold from there. So the opening scene is just a ton of nudity, and in the first 20-30 minutes, it's almost like arguably like a softcore blank a bit. And at least just to go off of that, I found something interesting about that. This movie was very unsettling. So this girl who's, living it up at the club and presumably making a good amount of money, and even running into this client who's got the son of a billionaire, basically from Russia. It was kind of painted as like, oh, everything's going great and she's got her big break, but at the same time you could tell that all these things were empty and didn't offer her a lot of value. Partying, drugs, rich, expensive things that ultimately didn't really feel wholesome. And I would definitely say it's not a PG movie, not a PG-13 movie. It's an R-rated movie for sure. And it's really an interesting look into a glamorous life and kind of how empty that can be if you potentially sell your, put your morals aside or decide to go down a certain path.
Morals for cash. So you wouldn't say that it was romanticizing like things that are very destructive. It wasn't. It was shedding light to it truthfully, that yes, it may come, this is blood money to a certain extent, where it's, yes, you're getting this money, but at the cost of, your sanity and your well-being. So it wasn't like being like, yeah, you get to do these things. It's the classic, making like the cigarette look sexy type thing, the romanticizing of these things and drugs use that, I think music in Hollywood can do, romanticizing these things that aren't great for you. It wasn't doing.
Yeah, no, definitely wasn't doing that. And while on the surface, it might have appeared a little bit like that, there's a really cool underlying sense of a void there, not only within her life, but in the world that she inhabits. And that in and of itself, I felt made it unique enough where I was like, okay, this is interesting, because it's hovering in between this is glamorous when it's really not, and it's not, oh, this is so terrible that no one would ever do that. It's great job of hanging right in the gray area where you're like, ooh, this is unsettling because she doesn't seem happy, but things on the surface do seem happy, but she also doesn't seem too unhappy. So it's kind of an interesting mix there.
So I guess this kind of brings up another bigger question that I have towards kind of the Oscars and kind of the selling of this movie as like an independent movie. So like, what does even, because I feel some inauthenticity when I hear that, and kind of I'm like, I don't know, like it feels like they're trying to sell us on the idea that this was an independent movie. Something that raises some flags for me about this is, all right, this is a pretty established director, Sean Baker, or I believe that's how you pronounce his name, Florida Project. He's already, been renowned and nominated for previous works. So this is an established director. They said that they made this movie for $9 million. I think that was roughly around the cost of it, and that's a small budget for Hollywood, which is kind of funny now. But that's how it is. These movies can get up into hundreds of millions. But I saw something that the amount of money they spent the most money for the marketing of this movie and to pay for its Oscar route. It seemed like they made this movie with the intent of trying to win the Oscar for it, and that was the sole purpose, and that's where they spent all their money. I want to look up the statistics. I think this was one of the more heavily endorsed movies on the back end for an Oscars run. And my problem with this is like where we've gotten to the state of the industry with nominations and critics and reviews and streams in the music industry is how can we tell what's what when things are being paid for like this? People are being paid to watch stuff. People are paid to review stuff. People are paying to why do you have to do this huge? It's like to play at the Super Bowl, you got to pay money to get to perform, and to win an Oscar, you have to pay money to the Oscars to even get nominated. It just seems like, all right, this isn't an award for Best Picture, but there's this pay gate that blocks.
It's gross.
And I feel like this isn't actually independent movie. This is Hollywood trying to guise itself as like a smaller beast out of their messing up of being like, we keep botching these $250 million superhero movies. They also have 3 independent movies that are being released right now: Mickey 17, Black Box or Black Bag, and Novocaine, and they're all tanking. I mean, and which is like, I feel like it's like they're throwing this independent word at us, but it's still the same studio thing.
Yeah.
It's just they're pushing the money around elsewhere, and they're trying to sell us something dressed in a different outfit, and it's not really something different.
I just looked at it. They spent $18 million on the marketing and distribution efforts. So 3 times the budget of the film.
Which is interesting, because usually you hear that, it's at least as much. And usually I hear that actually that, it does tend to be more than the actual movie. But it's just crazy to hear okay, so they spent $27 million. $27 million in this movie totally. Is that a small budget?
Yeah, well, and so I just looked it up on Grok here, and it said, for comparison, Neon spent $20 million on the Oscar campaign for Parasite a few years earlier. So if you make a film for $6 million and it makes 50, that is an independent film, 100%. But it is gross and should be banned, this Oscar campaign push situation, because you are getting further and further away from the best art winning. Now it's about how much money you're putting into the award show. Should people go to the Super Bowl, like you said, because they paid the most to get there? No, because you go to the Super Bowl because you have the best team. So I think you're correct in that labeling this as independent, while kind of ignoring this huge back end, is a little dishonest, maybe severely dishonest. But with that being said, completing a film for $6 million with this kind of quality that will then make a return of 50 in and of itself, separate from the campaign, is certainly an independent film and certainly something to be, congratulated and celebrated, because those are oftentimes very unique films.
Yeah, it just feels like just dishonesty, and it kind of goes into a whole, almost like a football thing of like, there's concussions and they have to always encourage a future generation to be getting into this field. And I think this is a push of like drawing to like, you can independent, like a smaller movie. This feels less, this is more homegrown. It feels again like they're selling us like this is cage-free eggs, and it's still the same Tyson, So, I just, especially with things with art and how just subjective it is. I just like don't want to see it getting taken advantage of, and I really think that the space should always strive. Just it's like journalism. Like you have to maintain the integrity. The integrity of the space and the field is what keeps it up. And when that integrity starts to fall, I think that weight falls too heavy upon, the people that are making it. It just like the industry infrastructure starts to break down, and I think you start getting things like this where people are paying their way in and not, oh, is this the best movie? Because Nosferatu and Dune 2 were my favorite movies from this year, and they didn't get crap. And that's kind of always been the stick of like, you're a box office winner, you're not a Oscar winner,
Yeah,
so,
well, that's BS too, by the way. So, yeah, and I probably actually would agree that I think Dune 2 should have won Best Picture. Yeah.
It was, I did not like the first one at all, and I really liked that second one. That second one was really well done, really beautiful. I really don't have too many gripes with that movie. It was really good. I really thought Nosferatu was really good too. Like just a really fucking clean movie done by really good directors. Not that Anora shouldn't have when I haven't seen it yet, so I can't talk. But I don't know. I think that the system needs to be fixed if there's a way to like.
Can't be campaigning for movies to win Oscars. It should not be allowed. It simply should not be allowed.
Like, can the people just vote, or just like?
Yeah, no.
Who's voting for this stuff, and we need to clean up. There needs to just be some more transparency and remove the lobbying. We need to remove the lobbying out of a lot of things, and this paying for award is not, it does not. That's why people are. The integrity of the industry is going, and what happens with that is people are like, I'm not going to go spend my money on it.
Yeah, I get it.
They're not guaranteed a product. So I guess it's tough to kind of leave it a grade. I think instead of asking for a grade, I'd ask anybody who's watching this video, first off, what would you rank Anora? Do you think that it deserved to be Best Picture? And then if you did or didn't, tell us what movie you liked and you thought should have won Best Picture. And if there's any solutions that you think that the Oscars could do to make it a more fair process, and at the end of the day, give the movies that deserve it their proper credit and recognition.
Yeah. Yeah, well, folks, that was Anora. We appreciate you watching. Brian, as always, you're a legend. And we will see you on the next one.